Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. And what we're going to be doing today is find out a little about IT and some insight on how to go to college for that. And my guest today is John Applegate. He's the owner of Cartridge World of Princeton. And welcome to the show.
Hey, Anthony, how are you? Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, John, usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where did you go to college?
I went to the esteemed Stockton State College down in South Jersey. And I had a minor in computer science and actually a major in accounting.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go back in time. Where did you go to high school, and when did you start thinking about college?
Well, I started out, my first 2 years of high school, I went to Christian Brothers Academy in Lincroft.
Okay.
And, obviously that school has it's very studious, like they really ingrain studies and academics plays a big part, there.
Yeah.
And at the time, you're really prepping for college.
Right.
I mean, you're not just in high school, you're prepping for college. After 2 years, I actually transferred. I went to Red Bank Catholic.
Oh.
And at that point, I started taking courses, some computer science type courses. Computers, this is back in the day. I mean,
they weren't quite what they are today, right?
I was going to say, I think televisions were invented and things like that at this time, but I would say around 1976, 77, computers were getting more and more, the thing to start getting your fascination with and all that. And
Sure.
I had an interest in that, but I also really had an interest with numbers. So I knew going into college that I probably at the time was going to pursue accounting.
Okay.
Yep.
So now, was it sophomore, junior year when you started thinking about college, or was it pretty much right when you got into high school? You
Well,
knew that you were going
like
to
I
college?
said, with CBA, you're pretty much starting to think college like from the moment you walk in the door there.
Okay.
And it's kind of like I said, you're preparing for college.
Now,
not just going to high
is
school.
your mom and dad involved right from the very beginning when you started thinking about this?
Yeah, I mean, they, having that choice of high school, I could have gone to the local regional high school,
Right.
but they wanted to, give me the opportunity, and it certainly was an opportunity to go to a high school that academics was more at the forefront, and so they, like I said, it cost good money to go to a private high school like that, and it afforded me that opportunity to focus more on my studies and get a better job.
So now you got good grades, I guess, in high school.
Yeah.
How did you end up picking Stockton State?
Well, I was actually working, throughout high school, and when it came time to pick a college, I just decided that I was able to keep the job I was working with my dad. I was able to continue working on the weekends.
Oh.
So I was actually one of these commuter college folks that in South Jersey, I was able to come home on the weekends and work.
Gotcha.
So, my family, my parents were of modest means, so I could help out by continuing to work and making some income in addition to them footing the bill for college and all that.
So was it pretty much just New Jersey schools that you were looking at, or
Yeah.
was it Stockton and that was it?
I looked at several schools in New Jersey,
Okay.
like Rider and Rutgers and some different schools.
Oh, okay.
And went down to the campus. As you know, and anybody that knows me, I'm an outdoors person. Stockton is down there kind of in the Pine Barrens, and it's a lot of outdoor recreation and things like that. And it just appealed to me as opposed to being out of school like in a city, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that certainly played into my choice.
Good. So now you're at Stockton, and when did you start thinking about IT and accounting and that kind of stuff? Do you go into school that way, or did you start thinking like sophomore year, I'm going to gear myself more into that?
Early on, it was interesting. A lot of the folks, at our age, when you're first getting into college, computers were becoming more and more like, I can't quite remember, if it was a Commodore 64, but the very first computers, Tandy, the Radio Shacks and all that. And the folks that I was taking classes with, it just seemed like IT was, it's not the right word, cooler. But accounting was I started realizing that, it seemed, nothing against accountants, I love my accountant, but a little bit of drudgery involved with just, debits and credits and numbers and all that. And it just appealed to me more to, the intuitive thinking and problem solving and all that. Not to say there's none of that in accounting, certainly, but I just really started feeling an affinity towards writing some small software programs and watching how the computer reacted and all that. And it just became like, hey, I definitely want to be into computer science.
Yeah. So do you start taking more classes in that as the years go on?
Yeah. I actually didn't take as many classes in college as I guess I should have, because I went further into accounting. So when I left college, I actually enrolled in a technical school called Brick Computer Science Institute. Oh. Where it's kind of it was a 9-month program where, that's all you do. And that kind of springboarded my education, I guess you could say, to be ready to go out into the workforce.
Okay, so now it wasn't just college that you're doing, but there's also extra work that a lot of kids out there, they might want to do that and just focus on more of a trade type school.
Yeah, if I had started right from, say, freshman or sophomore year in college and then totally devoted myself to computer science, I probably would have had the educational background to hit the workforce running, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But I didn't feel like, I had the full background of all the COBOL and all the different languages at the time that were the thing. So I decided to take this, it certainly wasn't a crash course. It was 9 months. And a lot of it was night work because, I got out of school and I had to support myself and all that. So I was working and I was doing this 9-month course. So, it was kind of a nose to the grindstone type thing. But I really felt when I got out, because it was so comprehensive and so solely devoted to computer science and what I needed to know to get out into the workforce, that I was ready. And I graduated, and the following Monday, I actually started work, so I had a job all lined up right out of that institute.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So now at the institute, what are some of the classes? Back then you can tell us some of the classes, but what are some of the classes compared to what you see today in IT?
Well, things have completely changed. Believe it or not, the first job I had, a lot of the computer science language was like an operating system language called OSJCL, and it was actually on cards. They call them the Herman Hollerith cards. Sure. That's like the Flintstones now to the the Jetsons. Literally, things have come so far so fast. Things like HTML and all the Java and all these things nowadays. That might have been in somebody's mind, but that didn't even really exist back in like 1980. That time frame, 79, 80, and but COBOL was the primary business language out there. I would say probably 80% of the business logic at the time out there was written in COBOL. It was a very business intuitive language. A lot of the mathematical fields and all that, it was a lot of Fortran and RPG3 were the languages at the time. But they really, depending on what type of field you were going, if you're going into banking, financial, from the software side, you would focus more on, say, COBOL versus if you were going into the scientific side of things, pharmaceutical, things like that, you might focus on Fortran or RPG3. But, at the time, like I said, those languages now, they're certainly not dead languages. Mm-hmm. COBOL, there's so much legacy COBOL out there that there's always a job out there for a COBOL programmer. But in this day and age, you really have to be up on more of the HTML, web, Java type languages. Mm-hmm. Those are the thing right now.
So those are the fast internet type of things that are out there.
Still growing. Those things, have led, from Windows to, from DOS to Windows. The next generation is currently being developed, I'm sure, by Microsoft and Dell and all these different companies and Apple. So you really, early on in my career, had a lot of ambition towards always staying current. Was always getting trade journals and reading up and studying on, the latest things that are going on in the software world to kind of keep yourself marketable. And as the new things came out, you don't want to get left behind. And, as I got later in my career, you kind of hand the torch over. A lot of the young folks coming out of colleges now, they were really ambitious like I was in learning all the web, HTML and Java. And, I was hiring folks that were half my age and had all the knowledge really going to pass over to go forward.
So once you got out of the trade school, you went into IT first?
Yeah, like I said, I had a job on the following Monday. I worked for a company in Farmingdale, New Jersey that focused on DoD, Department of Defense contracts, and it was a COBOL programming position. And I was the new associate, so to speak, on a team of programmers.
And how long did you stay in the IT field?
28 years.
Wow.
Yeah, right out of school, I literally was with, I didn't have very many jobs. I think my first job I stayed about 3 or 4 years. You kind of jump early on. And then I went and worked for a supermarket company. And I was there, and shortly after I joined the supermarket company, the whole IT operation was outsourced by IBM. So I just woke up one morning and was working for IBM.
Wow.
And that was a great opportunity because IBM, which is a good thing to consider when you're looking at what jobs and what companies to look at. The larger companies like an IBM or an Apple or Microsoft, they have training programs. They have a budget for training, so you can really, if you have the ambition and the initiative to pursue these things, it's just an endless amount of training available through the companies.
Sure.
Some of the smaller companies I worked for, not so much. You kind of had to take classes outside on your own, but within, say, the IBM sphere, there was always, even during work time, you could do online training and things of that nature. So it was really great for the career.
So now, how did Cartridge World of Princeton come about? How did you get involved in that type of franchise?
Well, as I said, the younger folks were coming in. They were becoming more marketable than I was, quite frankly. My last job was for 18 years with a software company based in the Princeton area. I had moved into management over the years, I guess through, merit, earning my way up into management. I became a team leader for a technical support team, and we had a global software product. We were kind of the back end of the software product. We supported the database, which was an Oracle database, and I had a team of folks, and we were global. We were flying all over the world, supporting different financial institutions. A lot of our clients were in Europe. Like I said, was there for 18 years. Which happens with a lot of companies, our software started getting outdated, just like software changes. You go from COBOL to web, HTML, and Java. Our software was getting a little outdated, and we were starting to hemorrhage revenue. And there's certain ways you can save money in the corporate environment. You can either cut expenses or sell more product. And we weren't selling more products, so we had to start cutting expenses. And I, as a team leader, had to start laying folks off. So to make a long story short, I don't want to dismay anybody about the corporate aspect of expenses and revenues and all that. But I think it was just a matter of time. I didn't have, as I said earlier, I didn't have the ambition to keep learning the cutting edge software and technology. It was time for me. I had been in the field for 28, 29 years. And I started thinking about what I would do outside of IT. I had been fortunate for being with the same company for so long that I had was given, like stock options and things of that nature that exist in the corporate environment. So I was able to take advantage of that and really started putting together a plan B, which was really important for me before the company had plans for me.
Right.
I knew that if it came time where maybe they didn't have room, I just didn't fit, or my job was outsourced or eliminated, that I had a plan B. So I started working on that several years before I decided to move out of my corporate job, and did a lot of research on a lot of different businesses. And the funny thing was, I was going out to lunch with a business associate, and I had printer cartridges on my seat. And the associate was getting in the car, and I threw the cartridges in the back and made a comment about, how expensive printer cartridges were. I had never heard of Cartridge World. And he said, "Oh, I go to this place, Cartridge World, you know." And I'm a very environmentally conscious person. I drive a Prius, you know. I do a lot of outdoor activities. And he said, "Oh, they're environmental, and there's a lot of cost savings involved." So that weekend, I drove up to Flemington, New Jersey, where there was a Cartridge World, and talked to the owner and put in an inquiry, in an online inquiry with Cartridge World North America, and they reached out to me. And you know, one thing led to another. I spent about 8 months, 9 months researching different businesses, but really focusing on Cartridge World to see if it was the business for me. Mm-hmm. And it was because of my technical background. I mean, being in IT, being around computers, networks, printers, you know, I just always felt comfortable. You know, I wasn't one of those people that, you know, oh, something's wrong with the computer, you know, I got to make a phone call. I would always try to solve these problems with whether it was networks, computers, printers by myself. So it was kind of a natural fit with Cartridge World supplying the printer industry. And I bought a franchise and transitioned out of the corporate world. And we opened up in June of 2012, opened a retail store up on Route 1, a little north of Princeton. And we'll be in business 3 years this coming June.
Wow.
And it's really been a, you know, I guess I could say I got a little bit lucky. You know, you never know if you go into a business that's kind of, you know, you get out of corporate and you go into some business. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Are you going to like it? Are you not going to like it? You know, you really, and it just kind of worked out that I really enjoy this business.
Is a lot of what you're doing also IT work that you're involved with?
Yeah, I mean, you know, anytime you walk into a business, or even when you talk to folks on the retail side of things about printers, you just can't get away from IT. It's always, you know, oh, my printer's not talking to my computer and my network, it's, you know, it's offline. And so it really behooves you, if you're in at least the Cartridge World business, to have an IT background. And I find that a lot of times I'll go into businesses and they'll say, you know, oh, my printer went offline, I can't get it back online. So I am, you know, or I'm placing a new printer in an environment and having to hard code the IP address in the printer. So there's just a lot of networking and IT that's still involved. Installing software. We're not just a printer supplies business. We don't just do cartridges. Mm-hmm. We've kind of morphed our business now that we're more of a total solutions provider. I sell a lot of printers, a lot of hardware. We also install software into environments. And that's kind of why I have this, what we call a RAC key here. It's a rapid assessment key. Mm-hmm. It's something that's been used by the copier folks for years in the industry, and we're using it now. And there's software on this key. And you can go into any network environment that has printers and print devices on the environment. And you can plug this key in, and it'll actually talk to every print device on the network. Wow. And it'll bring back everything you need to know pretty much about every print device on that network and store it on here. And then we can do an analysis and run reports. And the reason that's valuable to businesses is it's one thing to save money on your print cartridges, but it's also valuable to know, am I using the right printer in the right part of my business? You know, they may be printing a lot of, and I don't want to bore everybody with these details, but they may just not be using the right printer in the right part of their environment. They may be printing too much monochrome black on a color printer, and it's very expensive to print black on a color printer. So we can do that analysis and not only save them money on their supplies, but also make them educated and educate ourselves into setting up their environment from a printing standpoint to be the most cost-effective and efficient environment.
Yep. Interesting. So it's not just cartridges that you're selling these days, and you're doing a lot of other things. So you're the marketing guy, the sales guy, you're everything in the place.
Yeah, the IT guy. I mean, we walk in there, and this key sets itself up well when you're dealing with the IT folks. So getting back to the IT side of things, when I walk into businesses, typically in a large corporate environment, the person that's responsible for the printers and they're responsible for the computers and they're responsible for the networks is the IT folks. Mm-hmm. So because I spent so many years in IT, I talk the same language with those folks. And when I go into an environment and I meet up with the IT folks, you know, they're not, baffled or bewildered by somebody wanting to stick a piece of software into their network. You know, they can wrap their heads around that and they can understand it. So the relationship kind of starts off well because, like I said, we do speak the same language.
Yeah, that's great. So could you say that your college background and your trade background really enhanced what you're doing today?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, right from the get-go. I mean, you know, it helps to know what you like and what kind of early on. I mean, everybody changes fields. You know, it's a pretty common that you go into college saying I want to do this, and you might change your major and things like that. But it kind of helps to kind of have that defined as early as possible. For me, it was defined later. So I went to that trade school when I got out to kind of hone my skills. But to have that background, even the accounting background. I mean, as a small business owner, I have an accountant on my back every month, like most small business or every business.
Yeah.
And having an accounting background and dealing with my accountant, it's helpful to, like I said, even with IT. If you know something about something, you can talk the same language with the person on the other side of the phone.
Yeah.
So I can talk more educationally with my accountant. I can talk with the IT folks that I run across. I do the marketing for our business, and we have a marketing firm that we've hired. So you're really, as a small business owner, you have your hands in a lot of pots, and you get a wide range of education, and you better get yourself up to speed on these things quickly.
So now, if people wanted to find you at Cartridge World, they have the website. Is there a location where they can come and actually talk to you in person?
Yeah, we have a retail store. It's at 4095 Route 1 South. It's right south of New Road. We're technically in Monmouth Junction. It's about 3 miles north of Princeton Forestal Center, and we have every kind of printer cartridge you can think of: postage machines, copiers, printers, faxes. We also have printers in-house. My store manager is also a certified printer technician, so we can do a lot of general maintenance that's required on smaller desktop type printers.
Yeah.
We leave the big copiers and the big stuff to some other.
But they don't have to come with their printers or anything like that. They could just come.
No. They typically they come in as long as you know your printer model or the cartridges that your machines use. We'll come in and like I said, if it's an older printer, we'll do an analysis on your printer if you'd like, for no charge, and we can tell you if that printer is still printing efficiently for you, or if maybe that's one of the things we've been really doing a lot of lately is. Printers like cars. Cars used to get bad miles per gallon. Now they're much more efficient. They get a better miles per gallon. Well, printers have become much more efficient over the years. So it happens every day. We get businesses and/or retail customers come into our store or call us, and we can tell if their printer is efficient and cost effective for them. And we'll actually migrate somebody out of they come in looking for a cartridge. They don't even realize that they need a new printer.
Yeah.
And we can show them, and do an analysis and show them that it's very costly to use this older printer, and how much money they'd be saving, not only on our cartridges, which are typically 30 to 50% less than, say, if you walked into Staples, but it might be time to retire that printer, because that printer, no matter how much you save on the cartridges, still, it's not an efficient printer, and there's a much more efficient printer out there that probably suits your needs better. And nowadays, printers do everything except cook breakfast for you. I mean, they've got touch screens and fax and copy. They talk to your iPhone.
So really, if people are buying new computers and things like that, they should look into a new printer with that computer, because if their printer is maybe 10 or 15 years old, it might not be compatible.
You're right. I mean, it might not be compatible. I mean, a lot of the older printers now, they don't have the print driver, which is the software that sits on your computer that talks to the printer when you go to print. A lot of the older printers, there's no compatible print driver, would say Windows XP or even Vista, and some of those, all the newer printers now, if you have a computer that's Windows 7 or Windows 8 or a Mac, a lot of the newer printers only work now and speak well through the print driver to the newer computers.
Yeah, well, good. Yeah. Well, it's coming to the end of our show, and usually what I ask my guests is, what advice can you give the families out there if their kids are looking into going into IT at the college level? What do you want to give to those families? What advice can you tell them?
Well, one of the things that I see and everybody sees nowadays is there's so much more information available at your fingertips now than there was. I don't want to say it wasn't available, but it was through books and going to the library. It's so much easier now because everybody has an iPad and a laptop. If you have a feeling like you want to pursue IT, I mean, you could start at the age of 10 or 5. I mean, you can just start. You can go online and you can download software to teach you and educate you on different IT, whether it's networking or whether it's programming or whether it's gaming software. All these things now are out there and available. And you can really get a head start and a jump in life on educating yourself even well before you get to even high school and even get to college. That would be my advice. Is it's a competitive world out there, not only in the printer cartridge industry, but in business, everywhere. And the earlier you start, you can become a hotshot IT person, and you'll land that job that you wanted, right out of college.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it.
And you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.